Hi, everybody. This is Tim Keefe with Transform CX, and I'm here with Andreas Wieman, and we are doing bantercast version number 3. Very excited again to have Andreas, my good friend, on. And we want to today talk about one of the things that we think is one of the biggest challenges to the whole employee experience, retention, great resignation problems, got a lot of different names out there, quiet quitting. And we've been having a lot of conversations about this, both internally and with clients. And, are we giving our people the right tools to be successful? So Andreas, sorry for the long intro. I know you always get annoyed at me when I try and grab the limelight. So have a little bit of that time for yourself, but not too much, not too much.
No, I thought maybe I was going to get like 10 seconds of a guest appearance on this. I didn't know it was like a co-host type of thing. So, but no, in all seriousness, I think it is a good topic, and I look at it as a teach not tell type of approach, and what we mean by that, and we use that everywhere, is we got to train our people better. I think we did this pivot to adapt to the environments that we were facing during the pandemic, and then what we did is focus a lot on the technology to make sure the core business would move forward, but not necessarily the impact to the people that actually had to do a lot of the frontline level work and giving them what they needed to be successful. And now I think we're in this hybrid type of environment where there's still a lot of work from home positions. There's still a lot of brick and mortar positions now reopening and re-engaging, but I haven't seen any variance in our approach to make sure that they're successful from a modernization, I guess is the right adjective to use, type of approach. And that's where I think I see one of the biggest areas of opportunity or low-hanging fruit that we can address pretty quickly and see maximum ROI based off of that. So anyways, there you go. There's my long opening as well to match yours.
Well, no, I mean, you used a lot of big words there. You shouldn't want to be a consultant when you get tired of actually running a business.
I don't know. I actually like doing stuff, so that's not really it. I'm kidding for all my consultant friends listening to this. I'm kidding, guys.
You have friends? Like, that's news.
I pay a lot of money to have those friends, so yeah.
But a good point. And so one of the things, you and I laid out some agenda items here, and I think along the lines of what you're talking about, we spend a lot of time on technology. We spend a lot of time with, I think, what I would call peanut butter training, where we, say everybody needs this kind of training, boom, and everybody gets it. How well that training sticks and how well people are able to apply it is a whole different question. But one of the gap areas that, and we've talked about in the past, I think, is step away from, the training for the customer-facing staff, whether that's, associates in a brick and mortar or a contact center or in a variety of different arrangements. But what about the managers and the supervisors of those people? I mean, how do you see that playing out, particularly as we move forward and we have this kind of different workforce, right? That's very focused on, promotion, quality of the work I do, who the work I do with. People talk a lot about promotions, et cetera, which is kind of maybe or maybe not appropriate. But what's your thoughts on that area of the supervisor and manager training?
Sorry, I was distracted by a couple of squirrels outside my window. Was that a question for me?
Yes.
I'm kidding. So no, I think it kind of goes back to the same topic we were kind of just talking about, or maybe you introed and I introed equally, is giving them the tools that they need. And what I mean by that is, how can we ensure that we're not just applying this peanut butter spread approach? I think what you said is spot on. Of all right, look, Tim, this is my sarcastic voice, by the way. All right, Tim, look, we need you to have a customer experience center of 250 people, and we got to make sure that those guys get 4 monitors every single month. Right.
Right. Very common, right? That's we hear it all the time.
Absolutely. It was, instilled, 15, 20 years ago by some procurement person based off of a rightful interview they did with operators and QA folks, and it was absolutely relative, but it's kind of lost its value in where I think it's a box check. And so the real root cause is why do we want to do those monitors? What's the outcome we're looking for? Well, we're looking for variance. And so the amount of interactions that our people handle, it's not even, the whole phrase statistically valid sample size was, in our business anyways, was kind of created because we couldn't sample 100%. We couldn't sample in aggregate. We can now. Absolutely, we can. And so now, why do we choose to look at scientifically valid sample size, air finger quotes, when we can look at the whole aggregate? Or where can we focus our time and effort using just statistical approaches that deem what true outliers are? And that's kind of what I'm teaching my team right now, is giving them a mechanism of, I'm not going to bore everybody here, but like it's a 3 sigma deviation approach that says, look, these guys right here, this is within the range of the upper limit and lower limit of normal, but it's normal. You don't have to, I'm not saying don't, like literally I just had a meeting yesterday with my team. I said, look, I'm not telling you not to go talk to your people or coach with them, but here, these are the signals that are generating cause for concern that we got to do a proper root cause analysis on, because if we can figure out why this variance was outside of the upper or lower limits, then we're onto something. And if we can fix that, then we'll be able to make a bigger impact statistically on the whole aggregate level, rather than just, oh, everybody's got to get this. So anyways, my whole point is there's a whole slew of tools and methodologies out there that we can use. And I feel like they all started off in this really prominent place with a high level of relevance. And they've kind of gotten watered down over the years. And now it's just, look, just trust and just do this. I'm like, well, no, we got to teach, not tell. Because I told my team this too. I'm like, look, I'm going to be hands-on in doing this because it's a new topic. I need to brush up my skills on it too. No shame there. But I also want them to focus on what's the important part for them and their people. And then when they see the results, then they're going to get a more vested interest and they're going to get hooked into it and they'll learn a little bit more. But I can't, with a good conscience, just go out and say, look, don't question me. I'm in a role that's higher than yours, so don't question me. Just do it. No, I'm going to show you. I'm going to be there shoulder to shoulder with you, showing you how to do this, and make sure that you understand, the outcomes we can drive from it. So you stay focused, you see those outcomes, and then you get a little bit more excited. But it's getting them to do it themselves and believe in it themselves, rather than me just dictating them. It's me teaching them so they can go teach others how to do it. It's really that simple. Sorry, that was a little bit long-winded. My bad.
No, but I think it's it begs to open a couple of questions. And, for one thing, an observation would be, you're kind of breaking the model there. Rather than just sending your people to an online class on statistical analysis and saying, have fun, you're actually bringing those tools into the workplace and saying, this is how we will use the tools to manage for variance, whatever that's against, right? Average handle time, first call resolution, whatever it might be. It might be sales performance, et cetera.
It can be predicative. It can be predicative too. So like one of the behavior process charts is what we use, right? It's a visualization that I think more people can relate to. But we're actually doing it to look at attrition predictors, right? So instead of just waiting for attrition to occur, we're trying to look for what are the signals that are generated or thrown by people that has a high degree of probability that attrition is going to occur. So we can go intervene and go talk with these folks before the attrition occurs too. So it's multifaceted, and you can, 9 times out of 10, you can find a way to make it relatable to the focus that you want to improve upon. That's why I like this methodology and approach.
So how are your people reacting to it? I mean, do they feel like, oh my God, this is really hard? Or are they embracing it as a better way to be thinking about outcomes?
Well, no, the good thing is they are 100% embracing it. Like I've done this before, 10, 15 years ago. And so I'm making sure I'm brushing up on my skills to ensure that I can be the right champion to support the team. But when I showed this to them and I matched it with the actual data, and I think this is kind of important too, I'm the one that's getting all of the raw data. And like, no joke, I had an Excel sheet of like 5,000 rows of data that I had to pull in to get the right baseline. And then I did it at an individual level to show them how the process works. And sure enough, it matched up with exactly an analysis that typically takes, I don't know, you have to listen to thousands of calls and put, 10, 15 people in a room in discussions. At the end of the month, we'll have an output that, I was able to statistically isolate in like 30 minutes. So once I showed it to them, and again, I think it's about the credibility. They were really excited about it. The only, I don't want to say caveat, but the thing you got to look out for is they started to get curious about the actual like formula, right? And so I said, look, when you guys get in your car and you start it up and right before you hit the gas, do you really think about, all right, well, it's if it's a gas powered car, it's a combustion engine, I got to make sure I understand the mechanics of how the combustion engine works, or do you just hit gas and you start going and drive safely, right? And they're like, oh yeah, So I have a way of saying, don't, like, if you want to learn about that, absolutely, I'm here to support you, and I'll probably learn something along the way. But let's stay focused on the outcome that it drives, and it allows us, and really all that it does is points us in an area that allows us to focus the most quickest time, money, effort, resources, etc., to get the biggest ROI. And that's what I want them to stay focused on. Like, that's kind of the North Star. But if we have curiosity around it, I think that's great and that's healthy. And then I'm like building a microsite to find resources, external resources that kind of help further that education for the folks that are curious about it, but making sure that they're grounded on the true North Star, and that's driving improved outcomes in statistically isolated folks that need the help. That's all.
I'm kind of chuckling to myself as I think you and I had a pre-conversation about this was a methodology, pioneered by John Deming, and was very popular in the 80s and 90s, and kind of got, it's interesting. We always have new methodologies with a new name that we resell the same thing again. And it's just great to see the statistical analysis and data-driven decision-making, really start to come back into an industry. Let's face it, the BPO industry, we have a tendency to really focus on anecdotal evidence as, quote, evidence versus statistically valid, and I'll be careful about that term, but statistically analyzed data to identify outliers and predictive behaviors like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Kind of pivoting a little bit away from the statistical tools, which I think are really important, but what about other types of training? Again, I think we still have this problem, and not just in the call center industry, in a lot of industries, where we take a work group and we take the highest performing member of the work group and promote them and go, okay, you're now the team lead or the supervisor. And now all of a sudden, have we given them the right tools to be successful in a very different role? I mean, just because I'm a great mechanic doesn't mean I can manage a group of mechanics, especially if they're the same group of mechanics that I've been hanging out with for the last 3 or 4 years. And things like, to your point, now I've got data, and now I want to go back and let's say it's the Tim and Andreas, you're my boss, and you're coming to me and say, Tim, what's going on?
You're fired. That's what I would tell you if you work for me. I'm kidding. Sorry.
I would never get past the interview. That's the biggest problem. But let's say I snuck in using a different name, and now I'm one of those people that's driving outlier behavior, as you just talked about on Six Sigma analysis that we just mentioned, and then you kind of go, okay, so Tim, your first call resolutions are way below the lower control limit. What's going on? Now, as a supervisor, and we've all seen it, right? Some people have good empathy skills, but at the same time, they don't know how to get to a point. They have this classic sandwich. Oh, Tim, you're doing a great job, but your FCR numbers really suck. But come on back tomorrow. We want you to do a good job. And you're like, if you're the person getting coaching in there, what is that you're trying to take away from it? And there's a book that's been around for also a few years, probably written before you were born, called The 1 Minute Manager. And it's a really powerful tool because it gets to the point that everybody's a little different. Some people respond really well to positive reinforcement. Other people really need kind of a kick in the ass to get, to take it seriously. And then how do you set up your supervisors to be successful to say, okay, I'm going to go coach Tim. Tim he gets very defensive. All right. So coming in and getting too aggressive right up front, Tim's just going to shut me down, and a couple of things could happen. He could quit, or he just becomes passive aggressive and just goes, yeah, sure, whatever. And neither way is the result that we're looking for. So how do or what are the things that, as you're, leading your bigger team nowadays, are there things out there that you're thinking about, like how do we help with the soft skills? I mean, we talk about soft skills a lot for agents or for customer facing staff, but what about at our supervisor, manager, team lead level so that they can be successful doing exactly what you're doing, right? Like building people up, making them excited about outcomes, not feeling like they're in a salt mine, digging away at the wall until they can get a better job.
Yeah, well, the good news is for the small fee of $4,999, I can share all of that with you. No, I think the way that I look at it is relatability. And relatability, that's kind of broad, right? But if you make it relatable to your audience, whether you're talking to executives, whether you're talking to frontline employees, whether you're talking to, I don't know, like janitorial staff, like how do you make it relatable to them? Because if you make it relatable, you have more of a vested interest. And everybody in our business, they should have a vested interest some way, shape, or form. It shouldn't just be like a box check. And so I think for relatability is where I start. So, 10 minutes ago when you started that question, you said something about, how do you not, I don't know, like genericize it. I'm not going to repeat because I don't have 10 minutes left in this podcast, but how do you not genericize it? And I think you make it relatable to the audience. So for example, I have, staff in Southeast Asia. I have staff in Latin America. I have staff in North America. Why would I think, black and white, all of the things in training and the approaches I do in North America is going to be a 1-for-1 in Southeast Asia? Like that, honestly, to me, that's lazy. That's very lazy, and you're not looking out for your employees or your customers, And so the staff that I have, right, in North America, I compete with, and I've used this line before because it's true, I compete with like baristas and pizza makers. That's who my entry-level audience is competing with, whether or not they want to take a job here that's kind of difficult because there's a lot of tools and training needed, et cetera, versus can I go be a barista at Starbucks or Tim Hortons or something like that. And the training I need to give them, it can't be the same as what I face in Southeast Asia, where the entry-level role that I'm paying compensation for and perks for and bonuses for is actually much higher up. And so the competition that I'm facing there is in an elevated skill set that I would be facing versus North America. Why would I think that the training I'm going to give those, resources should be 1-for-1 versus the resources in North America? That's, again, to me is lazy. So how do I make it relatable to them to be able to get them to accomplish what is needed to successfully handle customer experience and et cetera? So I think relatability is the first place that you've got to always start with and say, okay, well, who's the audience I'm talking to? How can I make sure that it makes sense to them and that they feel a part of it? I think we've kind of gravitated, at least I've been in this industry for 20 years, and I see where we started off, and I know the feeling I got when I was a part of something that seemed like it was much bigger than me, but my contribution wasn't unnoticed, it was impactful. And I think we've gotten to this box check type of mentality where it's like, look, follow the instructions and everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows. I think everybody can just, step outside, look around right now, look at your 401k. It's not that easy. And the CX side of things is not any different. Like if it was that easy, Tim, and it was just ratio driven, like we were talking about earlier, everything would be sunshine and rainbows right now. It's not. And we need to step back and say, how can we make it relatable to the group that we're talking to? And that includes, the tools and training, whether it's a frontline agent or, like you said, the example you gave, I think is really good because it's super relevant. We always assume, again, I look at it as being lazy, frankly. All right, well, you have really good, this is my sarcastic voice again, you have really good stats, okay? So supervisor, you're now gonna have a team of 25 people or 20 people, and they all have to have good stats now too. But here, just go monitor them 4 times a month and it'll be great. No, it's not, that's lazy to me. Like, yep. You gotta figure out, how can I enable my people and get them excited about it? And the other thing too, make it relatable. We gotta get to a mentality of just helping each other. I mean, it sounds cliche, but I think it's true. We just gotta help each other. And I think I talked to my team and I said, here's a philosophical approach we're gonna take in 23. you all have goals that we have to, produce. But what I want you to do is not look at your goal as your prime driver or motivator. I want you to look at your teams that you support. How can you help them hit their goals? I don't even want you looking at whatever your goal is or your scorecard. Don't even look at it. All right. Just look at how can you enable your team and support your team. And I guarantee you the byproduct, if you're doing that, you're not pressured to hit some stupid number on yours, and you can deliver great support to your teams and they're delivering great support to their teams, I guarantee you your scorecard is going to be fine. And if it's not, then that's a problem I get to talk to my boss about. But just focus on helping people, and if you help those people, the byproduct, I think, is you're going to be okay. And if you're not, then that's a problem with the system that is helps us identify it. So anyway, sorry, I feel like I'm getting a little bit long-winded. If you can't tell, I'm passionate about this one.
Well, no, it's a challenge for both of us because we are passionate about it. And I do want to wrap it up a little bit, but I think today's bantercast, when I think about the topics we covered, just real quickly, I think one of the first things is data-driven decision-making. Yeah. And using tools that I think are even more effective in 2022 and 2023 than they were in the 1990s, because we now have 100% of our data. We record and transcribe 100% of our calls, our digital contacts, et cetera. So all the data is there. Sampling is, to your point, very dated methodology and not very effective. The second point I think that we were talking about, or what I'd like to really reinforce, is as we bring these types of data-driven decision-making into the workplace, are we training people both at all parts of the organization to understand what they mean and how they get used? These are not tools to beat people over the head with. There are tools to help people identify areas of improvement, but real improvement and measurable outcomes that we can get to. And then last but not least, and I think is probably the most powerful thing as we talk about supervisors and managers, and I think it's a topic for a panel that I'd like to do on modern leadership, which is, what does leadership look like in 2023? I think it's a very different, it's very much not sitting in a corner office with the door closed and managing up, but it's the critical nature of your job is enabling the success of the people that report to you. And if that doesn't happen, the rest of it really doesn't matter. And if we're doing that, that will drive those amazing customer experiences that we all have been talking about for the last 2 decades, by enabling the employees and their supervisors to be data-driven, empathetic, speak with the right tools, do training that addresses the right issues to get to the right outcomes. And those outcomes, to your point, as you always say, tie back to P&L. If we deliver that customer experience that delivers new revenue, recurring revenue, lowers cost to serve, drives profitability and compliance. And I hate to say it, but I don't think it's that much more complex than that. But not what you have to do to deliver on that is a lot of hard work.
But it's so much fun though. The way that I see it, and the people we get to work with, and how we solve those problems, it's so much fun.
No, I agree. And when you see the light come on, when people feel like they're being made to be successful and they're being rewarded for that success, it doesn't get any better than that.
It's a great feeling. Great, I agree 100%. Great feeling.
So, hey, Andreas, as always, thanks for spending 25 minutes of your Saturday morning with me. Bantercast 3, everybody. We'll be back. We definitely are going to get back on a stronger cadence with this, and we're going to be adding to panels. We have several other people will be coming in, as I mentioned just a minute ago. I really want to start an ongoing discussion of modern leadership, what that means. I think we have a lot of people with titles who would say they're a leader, and I think Andreas and I would argue they have no idea what leadership means.
Agreed.
And anything you want to wrap up with, my friend?
No, that was, I think you spent the last 5 minutes giving a great wrap up, so I'm good.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate it again. And thanks everybody for listening, and we'll look forward to our next Bantercast.
All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Bye.